Hi, so let's take a look at subtracting integers. So I want you, anytime you see subtraction, we're always going to change it to adding the opposite. So we always add a line and change the sign of what comes after it. So the definition of subtraction in algebra is to add its opposite. So instead of writing something like this, 3 minus 7, I want you to add a line to make it a plus, and then change the sign of the 7. So it's 3 plus negative 7. And of course, that would give us an answer of negative 4. And then in algebra, a minus b is exactly the same thing as a plus the opposite of b. Okay, let's look at example 1, subtracting integers. So look at A. 5 minus 9. So notice how when I see a subtraction sign, I add a line and change the sign. So it becomes 5 plus negative 9. And of course, 5 plus negative 9 would be negative 4. Take a look at B. This was 3 minus negative 8. Now what my students started doing is anytime they saw minus a negative, they would let it morph into a big giant plus sign. So this means 3 plus 8, which gives us 11. Okay, take a look at example C, negative 4 minus negative 10. Again, anytime that we see these two negatives, my students let them morph together to be a big giant plus sign. So this means negative 4 plus 10. And of course, that would give us positive 6. And then take a look at the checkpoint. It just says find the difference, but I want you to practice rewriting it as an addition problem. So here, on number 1, 3 minus 8. So I want you to add a line and change the sign. So this becomes 3 plus negative 8. Well, of course, they'll battle. The negatives are going to win by 5. So it's negative 5. Take a look at number 2. Negative 2 minus 9. Again, I want you to add a line and change the sign of the 9. So it's negative 2 plus negative 9. And they're all negative, so we just add it together to make negative 11. Take a look at number 3. We have 6 minus negative 3. Again, when you see these two minus signs right next to each other, let them morph into a big giant plus sign. So this becomes 6 plus 3, which would give us 9. Okay, let's look at example 2, evaluating variable expressions. We're going to evaluate the expression when x equals negative 8. So the first thing we have to do is replace this x with a negative 8. So I rewrite it as negative 8 minus negative 22. Well, remember, when you see those two negatives right next to each other, let them morph into a big giant plus sign. So this becomes negative 8 plus 22. They're going to battle. The good guys are going to win by 14. So it's positive 14. Take a look at B, 9 minus x. We'll replace that x with a negative 8, so it's 9 minus negative 8. Those two negatives are going to morph together to be a big giant plus sign, so 9 plus 8 gives us 17. Okay, take a look at the checkpoint. Evaluate the expression when y is negative 12. So I'm going to substitute in for y the negative 12. So negative 12 minus 6, I'm going to add a line and change the sign, so that becomes negative 12 plus negative 6. They're both negative, the signs are the same, so just add them. It's negative 18. Look at number 5 with me. This is 19 minus y, so I'm going to plug in negative 12 in for y. And notice how there were two negatives right next to each other, so let them morph into a big giant plus sign. So this becomes 19 plus 12, which gives us 31. And this last example right here, number 6, negative 7 minus y. Again, in for y, I'm going to plug in that negative 12. So I have negative 7 minus negative 12. Well, those two negatives right next to each other morph into a big giant plus sign. So this is negative 7 plus 12. So they're going to battle. The positives are going to win by 5. So our answer is positive 5. All right, let's look at example 3, evaluating change. They want us to write a verbal model to find the change in temperature given the start temperature and the end temperature. Use the model below to find the change from negative 5 degrees Fahrenheit to 12 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, a change is the same as distance, and I think it's a lot easier to think about the highest value minus the lowest value that they gave you. So notice how 12 degrees Fahrenheit is higher than negative 5. So I'm going to say 12 minus negative 5. Well, right here, those two negatives are going to morph together to be a big giant plus sign. So 12 plus 5 means 17. So the temperature changed by 17 degrees. Okay, take a look. It says find the change in temperature. So remember, just think high minus low. So if the temperature changed from negative 3 to positive 8, well, 8 is the high. So I'm going to do the high minus the low, negative 3. Those two negatives are going to morph together to become a big giant plus sign. So 8 plus 3 gives me 11. So this temperature changed 11 degrees. Okay, take a look at number 8. If it changes from negative 15 degrees Celsius to negative 2 degrees Celsius, well, the high temperature is actually negative 2. So it's negative 2 minus negative 15. And these two negatives morph together to be a big giant plus. So negative 2 plus 15 gives us a 13-degree change.